Bitcoin is setting up the exact move that we have seen in the bull run of 2020, but most of you are too distracted to notice. The market looks calm, but under the surface, everything screams volatility. We've got liquidation zones stacked above and below the current price. Open interest is surging and funding is flipping negative. This is a classic short setup and pain is coming no matter what side you're on. But what if I tell you that this reset is actually bullish? Bitcoin just bounced off key support. Spot buyers are absorbing all the selling and whales are back to accumulating. At the same time, altcoins like Zeta, Orca, and Arch are lining up perfectly, showing strong setup with volume and great narrative momentum moving higher. I'm going to show you exactly how the current Bitcoin setup mirrors 2020, where the breakout could go, and which altcoins are ready to follow if we flip $89,000 per one Bitcoin. Most people won't recognize this moment until it's already gone, just like they did not recognize recent local bottom. Do me a favor, press the like button. Let's get into today's video. First of all, 2020 and 2025 setup comparison. These two charts are just insane. 2020 was actually the year before the vast majority of the bull run, I would say blow off top, actually happened. So what we do see here, consolidation, very, very similar to the one that we have seen in the summer, right? And we definitely see certain upward price action right before it. Move up. You see, very quick move up. That's why they actually say that in stocks, if you miss the key 10 days of price action, you actually miss on at least half gains, at least 50%, right? Half of the gains. In crypto, this is quite insane. Mavi was just going down for 2 months straight. In less than 4 hours, it jumped 4 to 5x. Yes, it's scammy. Yes, it's probably crime in the first place, right? But if you were not positioned to the asset, you missed the price action that pretty much reversed the pricing, the downward price action for the last 2 months. It's key in this market to actually be positioned, to actually be holding your assets, to actually have conviction, because they move quick, they move with speed, and you won't have the option to position once they move. Chop, right? Something that we essentially seen somewhere around current levels, right? Something that we have seen around $100,000 and $110,000 January. And partially February, but in February we'll already dump it. Move down, something that happened in the start of February, something that continues start of March. Higher low, right? Something that we're printing right now, high low, and then up only expansion to $20,000, right? This was the thing that happened in 2020, right after we had a COVID drop and like all these things, right? But what we do see here, summer consolidation in the current cycle, 2024, move up, right? This was BTC from $60K to $110, chopping $110 area, move down, right, as we are seeing currently, higher low, bunch of alts on this higher low, they're actually lower, right, they're quite low. But wasn't it you, if I recall correctly, someone who was whining about the fact that altcoin prices are too high, that the game is rigged, that VCs rigged the whole thing and they are coming out onto the market with very, very high valuations? Are altcoin valuations high currently? Are they actually high currently? Of course, if you would take the revenue numbers, all these things, most likely are. Like if you would compare them to Web2 businesses, most likely they're quite high, right? However, we are in crypto. Valuations are inflated. I think altcoin valuations are actually very, very nice at this stage. High, low, and chop around this area, right? Something that we have seen here right after expansion. And following this chart, we should be going to $180,000 per Bitcoin. I honestly do think that we should be seeing this cycle. 6x from the bottom is nice, right? But we did not have this blow off top phase. We did not have retail. And guys, like a lot of people are saying, well, people are poor and things like that. It's not about someone like being poor or being rich. It's about how lucrative the opportunity is. I can give you in this example. You know this girl from school. This is the love of your life. You spend like 7 to 10 years in the friend zone, right? And then once you get drunk, you have sex, you decide to date her, she agrees in the first place, and then you decide to marry her. And this is the love of your life. Like you love her with all your heart. Just insane. You're living the dream. One day she's diagnosed with, I don't know, kidney cancer or something. I'm not sure if kidney can even have cancer. and you are the person that actually has the same blood type to her, and you can give away your kidney to her, but you will die, right? And the operation costs $500,000 on top. If you really love this girl, if the opportunity is lucrative enough, right, you will give away your kidney and you will sell the fucking house. You won't care. You won't care. You will sell the house. You will finance the operation out there. I know it's a terrible example. It's a dire example, right? I don't wish anyone to experience something like this. But if opportunity is lucrative enough, whether from the positive point of view or from a negative point of view, money is always not an issue. Once this crypto opportunity is going to become lucrative enough, people will flood in with the money. 100%. And the only reason this opportunity is not lucrative currently is because these people who are going to manipulate this market to Valhalla, right now, they decided that they need to accumulate some more. Right now, they decided they want these cheaper assets. Right now, they decided, let me liquidate those fucks. Let me take their money. So using their money, I will actually push the market. So they will actually buy higher and I will take the money one more time. They're not taking money by inventing something. They're not taking money by being right on some narratives. They're taking money through skill, through the fact that they know and have tools how to manipulate this thing and how to print out these charts, how to make it in the way to take as much money as they can from you and invest $0 just based on your own money. They dumped it, they make profit on your money, they take it from you, they pump it, they push you to re-enter, they dump it again, and they take your money all the time. This is the chart of exchange net flow. Green candles are inflows, red candles are outflows. We can see that we were at the record outflows for Bitcoin from exchanges. What does this mean? It means that people are either getting the BTC out and store them into essentially some cold wallets, right? Or they're essentially just selling and try to get the cash out, right? Despite that, the price is actually quite stable. You can see how severe this week. We have never seen a week like this, right? It's pretty insane, at least in the last couple months of the recent price action. This one is pretty insane as well. This is the balance of long and short positions per Bitcoin out there. We are kind of in the no man's land. You can see that in current range, market makers did everything to liquidate all the short-term longers and shorters, right? And we have giant wall of long liquidity, around 85, even slightly lower, like $84,000. And we do have giant wall of liquidity at the top as well, around $89,000. And the wall of liquidity above us, the short liquidity, is actually bigger, which means that the very, very stupid in this speculation here might be that we should actually be going higher just because of the fact that it's more profitable for the market makers to take out this liquidity. Just before that, I do think that they might take us slightly lower to $85,000. This is honestly something I'm expecting to happen in the coming several days, because I do expect that people that were late and jump on leverage, they should get wrecked, right? So they will swipe out this liquidity of 85K. Maybe we would even touch 83, because with all these longs being dumped into the market, right, the price will be dumping as well. And right after, I think they will use these funds to push it 10K higher and be there. And then people will scream, well, we're in the top of the range, we should probably take profits and things like that. And we will just continue to move higher and higher and higher till the month of June. This one is pretty interesting. This is a moving average outlined on the chart, with BTC chart essentially going lower below this moving average. Each and every time this was happening, bears were screaming on the market. We're going lower, nothing is happening. This was the top, right? Here was the top because we tapped below. Here was the top because we tapped below. And each and every time thus far, we actually recovered and we're bouncing back higher. Honestly, I do expect something from us to happen right here and right now as well. Something similar. For us just to recover and bounce back even higher, because all of the metrics that you would assess that the bull market is at the top at this stage, they're just signalizing that it's not the top, but you should just hold and accumulate, hold and accumulate. I do believe that honestly, the current situation is kind of a blessing, because if not for the older coins, they probably were in at the lower prices before in the bear market, before this bull cycle started, right? But newer coins, something like Mavia, for example, right? This thing just recently, it was at the exact absolute bottoms, exact absolute lows, the prices that it had never seen before. And that's why I'm saying that the current dip, or at least 14th of March, which was somewhere around the absolute bottom, right, which was exactly around the blood moon, which is very interesting, right? Or I think 11th of March. So these dates, they were the absolute bottoms for the new coins of this cycle that actually appeared on the marketplace this year, or the last one, right? Which is pretty insane. You were able to acquire these assets that did not have venture capitalist manipulation yet at these prices. Because I want you to understand something. A lot of people are screaming about the fact that these altcoin prices, they're just insane and VCs are launching at crazy valuations. But the reason they're doing that is because they want to be making money in the current setup as well. What they do, they launch some shitcoin at $2 billion in valuation. They give some supply to exchange. They sell some of the locked supply to the market maker. And all of these parties, what they start to do on each and every unlock and with each and every piece of supply that they have, they open up shorts on exchanges and they just start to coordinately dump these supplies. They should be in jail for this, right? But this is something that they were doing. So a lot of them, they extracted tens of millions and millions of dollars from this market already, because they were definitely doing it into buy pressure. Probably they were using some influencers to create some exit liquidity for them. Probably I actually was the provider of exit liquidity for Blast, for example, in the summer, despite the fact I was not even paid, and I generally just believe in the ecosystem. And I still do believe, to be honest with you, right? So they made tens of millions of dollars this cycle already. But would you bet that because of it, they won't be pushing the asset back higher? Imagine that, like a lot of them, they should have very thick treasuries at this stage, full of money. And if it's not enough for them, and usually it's not enough for human beings in terms of money, they should be pumping up these prices, because they need to pump them to very, very high valuations in order to be able to take profits from them over months. There is a reason we have at least 2 years bear market, and there is a reason that VCs that were early to Solana, that received 1900 X's, they were selling it at 140 or 110, at $70, at $40, because at $40 they still have 500 X's. They don't care. They need this long period so people can actually create liquidity for them. People can think, wow, these are discounts, we are buying, right? So people can actually create liquidity in order for these guys to be dumping their supplies for all of this time. And honestly, most of these market manipulators, they're actually making most of the money when they are pumping the assets in the bull run, in the bull setup of the market, because this is when the new capital, new liquidity comes. Because yeah, you can be dumping all of your unlocks, but partially these are your funds in the first place. Partially this is something that team gave you in the first place, right? So just this giant scam machine where they put in some capital, and depending on the success of the marketing skills of the underlying team, they are pumping the valuation of the underlying asset up. So they can take out their own money and taking out some profits on top, based on how well the concept is being sold to the audience out there. Trend accumulation score by cohort. Cohorts by Bitcoin. So these are essentially on the top line, you have people with the biggest amount of BTC, right? On the bottom, you have people with the smallest amount of BTC. As you can see currently, the top row, which is the biggest Bitcoin whales, they are switching from fear, from like selling to accumulation at this stage. So they start to buy, right? And people with a smaller amount of Bitcoin, especially the ones that have less than 1 Bitcoin, they're heavily selling at this stage. While whales are actually accumulating. Whales have the highest score in terms of accumulation, right? And shrimps, less than 1 BTC, they have the lowest score at this stage. In the last couple of months, we also have experienced open interest reset, price trend held despite the reset, right? Spot and futures selling absorbed, and $89,000 is still the key resistance for BTC at this stage. And for the whole crypto market, this is something I was explaining in the video yesterday, that we are essentially at the local core resistance for a range of assets out there. Once we break out of it, you would pray you were positioned. I think you will get priced out in a matter of seconds out of the assets that you wanted to accumulate. In a matter of seconds. Once this market gets a confirmation of the bullish setup out there, it flies, right? Top 200 to 300 million market cap projects, we do have Zeta blockchain, which is blockchain altcoin. We do have a bunch of files out there. Technically, they just look all the same. Interesting thing here is that, yeah, definitely had a short squeeze. Probably was shorted to death. And like this type of chart is actually something that we had on Blast, right? It's just that Blast did not have this severe expansion. Like, yeah, definitely did not have that, because if you would compare, what is the amount of multiplier? Yeah, it's like 2x, like 100%. Interesting thing is that like they all are printing the same thing here on the chart. Like depending on the asset, they just continue the upward price action, right? And they just consolidated around this level. So this is a bit of extended chart, but this is something that essentially they do, right? Main thing for that is because they are facing these core resistance around these areas. Probably like a very, very raw line that I drew here. And it's interesting that this is something, guys, this is something I told you at the start. Even in stocks, if you miss the 10 days of core price action, you are actually missing 50% of gains. In crypto, let's say like this thing was dumping since 23rd of January. Right now we're end of March. So for 2 months, this thing was just going down. Let's say like you sold somewhere here and you decided like, man, I would just re-enter when it's higher because yeah, it should probably go down. And it went down like 10%, right? 10, 20%, and you feel nice about yourself. You think, man, like I'm such a great investor. I actually was able to sell, and I actually was doing very, very nice and things like that, especially if you're on leverage, right? Especially if you're on low leverage, so you would not get liquidated here, right? But you still close your position because you were pussy, right? And at these levels, 21st of March, which just happened 6 days ago, you're receiving a 2x expansion, which instantly moves the price at 31st of January, right? And right now, if you're not positioned, if you're entering currently, you can get liquidated easily. No one knows where this thing actually going to go. No one knows if it's going to revisit some lower levels, right? But you would probably feel FOMO at this stage. This is a very, very stupid thing from my point of view, to be closing or selling right here. And most likely it was a stupid emotional decision from your end. Let's check out the risk reward at this play, right? What you're trying to protect here. You're trying to protect the downside, right? So let's say you're down 30% on this thing at this stage already, right? Because nobody buys at the exact prices, right? If it goes down 20% more, it means that you would be down probably like 36, 40% now, somewhere in that range, right? Not much, like max maybe like 50% down there, right? So what is the upside that you actually were trying to protect? Let's take the downside. The downside you were trying to protect is 10 to 20% move down for the amount of holdings that you have, right? And this is the downside that you were trying to protect, even 30% at this stage, right? You are in crypto, you should be fine with these things, right? But what you're doing, you're actually risking an insane upside, because the difference, if you enter here or if you enter here, right? If you would just hold through the whole cycle, the difference between these two levels is just a 2x, right? But this is the difference between 100x and the 50x. This is the difference between 50x and 25x. This is the difference between 20x and 10x. This is the difference between 4x and the 2x. This is enormous, huge amount of money that you're actually losing. Because what? Because you were pussy and you were trying to protect your 30% downside, selling into extreme fear, just to feel nice, just to feel like everyone else, because you want to be with the crowd. It's very hard for humans to invest because all you have to do investing is actually stay as far as you can out of the crowd, right? It's very counterintuitive to be doing things in here. But at the same time, it's kind of easy. Like the way you want to do naturally with your crocodile brain, you just do the opposite, right? And this is the way you win. I do still believe like the easy strategy out there that people make fun of: sell when the fear and greed is at the top, buy when the fear and greed is at the bottom. It works each and every time, right? So this difference is actually huge. And if I would open up my chart, you would probably cry because their difference is even more. And 100% something that was actually happening here. I do think that the funding rate was very, very negative here at this level. Something that we have on Blast currently. Blast chart in terms of this accumulation is very similar. It also broke up slightly, so it's currently around these levels, right? The funding rate on Blast is minus 0.14 on Bybit at this stage, right? neutral funding rate is 0.001. So current funding rate on Blast is 14 times negative. It's 14 times lower than the default neutral funding rate. Think about that. Next thing we have here is Orca, which is DEX on Solana. We can see here RSI, we can see MACD, we can see the price, we can see that kind of the indicators are showing the bullish price action continuation for this one, and we definitely have the breakout. It's nice to be checking out that. Let's also check out what actually the chart tells us. Classic short squeeze. Guys, this is insane. Like, these are just the short squeezes that we get on this market. Again, you were holding through all these things, right? You saw like here, you felt that you are a genius because you what? You just protected yourself from a 30% more downside, which resulted in what? Which resulted is that you are priced out and the thing did a 3x in price in 4 hours, because it's pretty much just one candle in 4 hours. My back chart is very, very simple at this stage, right? The main question right now is whether or not these assets actually going to go lower and if they will be printing new all-time lows, right? And remember the thing I told you, you could have been whining about the fact that, wow, VCs are so bad, they are launching this thing at crazy valuations and things like that. Probably the valuation of this thing at these levels was quite insane. But was the valuation quite insane at these levels? Was the valuation quite insane at $1.5? And what you were doing here, you were sitting there in fear, thinking, I probably should not be buying that because my favorite influencer is calling for $1,500 Ethereum, right? It's insane. I honestly don't think that we should be seeing something like this, because these short squeezes, this was not the short squeeze, right? This is some global stuff. And even shorters, they do understand that probably right now they have to respect the areas of support out there, which is probably this is the main one right here, right? And my best shitcoin, which the harsh market maker actually got me out of it, right? We can see this chart I was printing out, which is wrong at this stage because we started to correct. Pretty much just entered the same resistance area, quite similar to the ones that we are seeing on a range of alts out there, because from one point of view, yeah, you have strong alts, right? From other point of view, the thing that you might have is that these strong alts are actually not in the position by the market to grow too much, because if the market is overall bearish, people will still short and they will still sell because they just won't believe that the asset can outperform for a prolonged amount of time in the bearish setup of the market, where most of manipulative assets do actually do well, because of this limiting belief, right? Because of this belief that now, it just can't go higher because the whole market is shit, everything is going down, things like that. So, crazy move. I had this thing longed from 0.3. They got me out of this long with this week, and the fact that I was greedy, and the fact that I actually put stop losses. So, the fact that I was greedy and the fact that I was a pussy, they got me out from this thing through these two things, right? And then it pumped. And the speculation here is that 200 million is possible at these stages, right? It's AI on Solana. It's the only thing that survives except Farcoin. Farcoin is a meme. This thing is actually has some infrastructure. It's actually a nice play in terms of utility out there as well. So the speculation there that, yeah, this thing should be moving higher from these levels. It's pretty nice. To give you some levels, we definitely have strong resistance area at this stage. I would say that this is your strong resistance. The other level, yeah, would probably be somewhere around this. So it's a bit mental to provide you with the levels in terms of one line because they usually look like this, right? They usually look like rectangles out there. So here I would say would be your accumulation area. The next one, and then quite obvious one, is essentially this one as well. So this the second one should obviously be stronger. And right after, if you go even lower, somewhere around these levels, right? But I would say that this one around 0.555, 0.6 is the lowest where we can be going. And it's still it will mean that market is probably pretty bearish. Something I would expect if we continue with the bearish price action is us to tap into this area and bounce back higher essentially. And maybe do some sideways chop in this area as well. And you can see how severe, how harsh is actually sideways chop in this area as well. The reason for it is because market maker was willing to liquidate everyone who's on leverage, because this thing actually was available on leverage from very low levels. It was available on Binance as well, right? So that's why they were essentially liquidating everyone who was present on leverage to make sure that they just won't be able to hold this position into the Valhalla. This is pretty much it. We do have a lot of bots and scammers in the comments on the YouTube videos. So I'm again contemplating on just closing them out because they're pretty insane. And yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know. There was a question as well, whether I'm actually looking on 50 days EMA when I'm thinking I'm longing the assets, right? When I'm looking into these resistances and things like that. I'm mostly looking at the resistance areas, and I'm mostly looking to the assets that are like, I like to long depth. I like to long the stuff that is funded, especially from the current cycle, because the current cycle, it means that the venture capitalist manipulation did not happen yet, and they need to do it in order to make the money back, right? Although vast majority of them, they probably like made out. Like Mavia, for example, they probably made so much money already on shorting this thing. Well, at the same time, it also was quite hard to just hold the short. But Mavia was the best short in this cycle thus far. It went down from $600 million in market cap to $5 million. Maybe, just maybe, it's also going to be the best long. We'll see. Thank you very much for watching this one. Stay healthy and rich, and I shall be seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye.